Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the TTE podcast, and I thought it would be a good idea to reassemble the what we affectionately remember as well, this was not affectionately. That's not the way I want to say it. I'm just rambling now, and it's too early to be rambling. So, what I would say is that I thought it would be good with so much going on from an NBA, NFL perspective to run the four-quarter offense. So back with me again are Brian, Pat, and Alan. And guys, I just want to start by saying I just don't know, or not know, let me say it this way. I don't want to hear shit from a Cowboys fan anymore about anything ever again, given the way that they came out and played on Sunday against the Niners and then almost won it at the end until clearly they have some very, very poor coaching. And the whole thing was a shit show from probably late in the third quarter on. If you did not see the game, just watch the whole fourth quarter and you'll know everything that you need to know. But with that, I'm curious what you guys thought about the Cowboys shitting down their leg. Because personally, as a Giants fan with the Eagles losing earlier in the day, it was like Christmas for me. So it'll always be fuck Dallas, but that's just how I live. So with that being said, I'm curious what you guys thought.
I'll go first. I came in and out of the game because hashtag dad life, but from what I saw, it was just, I would agree that it's a comedy of errors. I don't think you lost the game on the QB sneak, because certainly all the penalties and everything else that went along with it, but that can't be your call with that few of seconds left in the game. That can't be your call. And if that is your call, then Dak, you got to get down 5-10 yards before to give yourself at least enough time to get down. I heard McCarthy, was it yesterday or today? I can't remember, but in end of the year press conference, he said, well, we figured that the play would be about 13 seconds long. So that should give him a second that should at least leave 1 second for him to spike the ball and have that on the clock for one final heave. I was like, do you hear yourself? Like, that's ridiculous.
If I was Jerry Jones, I said, I'm paying you way too much fucking money for you to cut it that goddamn close. The fuck you mean we thought we could get it with 1 second left?
You're leaving yourself no margin for error.
None. None. Steak ass rappers make me sick. But Pat, Allen, what'd you guys think of the Cowboys collapse?
I can jump in, again, I'm not a Giants fan, but as a Bills fan, there's no tears shed when the Cowboys lose. Bigger picture, the weekend itself was not an argument for that extra playoff team at all. Pretty clear that was a level we didn't need to go to. And boy, I think I mentioned to you guys, I follow a lot of West Coast writers because of the teams I like. Everything I read about Jimmy G is exactly true. He seems to have that locker room. He seems to be a leader. He does some good things for him, but by God, he will make some bad throws that change the game. And a lot of the fans are ready for Lance. But it is hard. It's really difficult to understand how at this level, when we see so many teams, I can think of 4 times in the last 2 years where somebody got the ball with 35 seconds left and got a good look at a win. Rodgers and Brady can do it in their sleep. I'm not saying every quarterback has to be them, but don't you have to know?
Hold on. Every quarterback that's making $40 million a year has to be them. That's a fair expectation. If I'm paying you $40 million a year, that you should know that you can't spot the ball where you want to.
Dennis, so much of my sports viewing goes back to my days in college. So I'm a student assistant for a Division III school, right, in basketball. Now, granted, we were pretty good, but we spent probably 20 minutes a day in practice with nothing but me sitting on the sideline with the old school scoreboard, putting up scenarios. Okay, up 4, minute 20 left, down 7,
Yes, you
minute
have to
40 left.
practice these
Yeah,
scenarios.
I mean,
Yes, situational
and that was
sports.
Division III basketball. So that's tough to excuse when you have an ending like that.
Yeah, 100%. Pat, any thoughts from you?
Excuse me. Well, much like Brian, I watched it kind of in a dad mode. I kind of had it on in the background, but I think the thing that stood out to me was just the inefficiency of the Cowboys at home. Like, what they had at least 4 or 5 sacks they gave up. One, I thought that was a little surprising. And two, I think they had a shitload of penalties in that game. Did they not? I don't
They
know.
had 14 penalties. 8 of them resulted in either San Francisco getting a first down, or it took a first down away from them.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So I mean, I guess my point is it's this. Unfortunately, it's the Cowboys that we've known of late, right? Not the Cowboys of our youth that were this efficient monster that dominated for like 10 years of our youth. They've now had basically 20 years plus of ineptitude, and it's happened to them again. And I mean, I don't have a dislike for Dallas or that some of you guys have, but I just thought it was kind of odd to be the home team and kind of get outplayed that badly. It just was kind of surprising, actually. But I mean, that's my big takeaway was just their inefficiencies and lack of discipline in a home playoff game was kind of surprising.
And we would be remiss if we didn't mention that their egomaniac owner spent $1 billion on a football stadium that's a terrible place to play football in. So there's that.
Well,
especially when the punts hit the scoreboard.
Well, everybody says it's great to look at as far as like being there, but yeah, I've heard whispers that it's not a terribly fun place to actually do the game in, like when you're a player. So that's strange.
I can just tell you, if I paid that much money for the building and I owned the Cowboys, it would be fire everybody. Like, you would not want to run into me Monday morning after a game like that. If that's just me.
But then you'd be the Giants.
Well, Lord knows you don't want to be those fuckers, because shit, those guys are fucking trash right now.
But shots fired.
Yeah, and I'm shooting the shot. Like, yes, I am the shooter. That being said, that was some of the bad, but some of the good. I mean, I don't know what else to say other than to say I am buying all the Joe Burrow stock that I can get. And I had this thought the other day that Ohio's pretty unique in the sense of Ohio doesn't have a whole lot of tradition or success when it comes to professional teams. And it's just ironic that a kid that was Cleveland adjacent went to Cleveland and ended up making them a successful franchise and a valuable one, and eventually brought them a title. And now it's ironic that the same thing is happening in Cincinnati, where a Cincinnati adjacent kid, even though Athens is way further from Cincinnati than Akron is to Cleveland, but a quote unquote local kid came and didn't shy away from the challenge and kind of said, yeah, no, I want this. And the most impressive thing about Joe Burrow to me was they had a press conference. He did press this week, like Monday or Tuesday. And he just said, I need the people of Cincinnati to understand you better get used to this, because this is how it's going to be from now on. And I just thought, who the fuck puts their nuts on the table like this? And you've only played like, 20 games in the league. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, like, this is the way it's going to be. But not only is he saying it, he's backing it up, and he's believable. Like, there are very few things in life that live up to the hype, but it looks like Joe Burrow is one of those things.
I guess. But certainly, if you're thirsty, and you get a glass of water, it's the best glass of water you ever had, right? So
that's your Steelers hate talking. That's your Steelers hate.
Listen,
that's total Steelers hate, motherfucker. Can't you let them shine for just a minute? I mean, you've been the Steelers have dominated that division for 25 years. Let them have
That's
their moment.
that's fine. That's fine. Enjoy it. Enjoy it. Enjoy your moment. And quite frankly, if I'm I try to be objective in all things. He's going to be like, for this as a Steelers fan, he's going to be a problem for the next decade. Like and especially the way that they're accumulating talent, and it seems like they're starting to figure it out. Like, this isn't your Marvin Lewis, Sam Weish Bengals, like higher, or like, the end of the.
This ain't Achilles
side.
Smith.
Yeah, this isn't the Achilles Smith era, right?
Achilles Smith.
So all joking aside, they're going to be a problem. I know they're going to be a problem. To your point, Alan, about Jimmy G, I think he would look good in the Steeler uniform, but they look like they're going to go with Haskins or Mason Rudolph, so we're going to be some dark days ahead. But yeah, Joe Burrow's that deal, and he's probably going to end up running it because I don't see a whole lot of confidence in Baker. So it's going to be him and Lamar Jackson duking it out for the division.
Yeah, man. I mean, so Burrow, obviously, I don't watch a ton of college football besides Ohio State, and I think I've said that here in the past. So, but that season that he was at Louisiana State, I watched several of their games because they were very entertaining, and that kid made all the right plays in college. He was phenomenal. Obviously, I think they won the national title that year. I'm pretty sure they did. And yeah, the Bengals got themselves a gem. The kid knows how to get it done, and he's a winner. And like you said, Dennis, he carries himself in a certain way. And being a Cincinnati sports fan, I'm a supporter of the Reds. It's kind of gloomy in that part of the state in terms of professional teams. It's not been a lot of success in those parts for a while. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. I don't know that they can win a game in Tennessee, but we'll see. I think that'll be an interesting game this weekend. I'm gonna
Just the fact that they're competitive, and it wouldn't shock anybody that if they did win, is a major accomplishment. Like, they haven't been good since Boomer Esiason. In fact, I saw something where it said the last time that they won a playoff game, the text message hadn't been invented. It didn't come out till the following year. So you could never send a text until Saturday that said the Bengals won. It was impossible to send that text message relative to the playoffs. Like, that is baffling to me.
What about, is that the same thing for the Cowboys? I mean, the Cowboys haven't won a playoff game since, was it, God, when was that? Was it the 90s?
No. The last time they won a playoff game, I think Dak won one.
Did he?
I seem to remember a game.
I think Romo won.
Well, no. I seem to remember a game where they beat the Seahawks at home in a playoff game.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I seem to remember that. So they, everybody remembers the Romo one in Lambeau where like he caught it but didn't catch it and all that. But I think that's the last one. So Dak is a 1-1 playoff game, I should say. But that being said, enough, Cowboy loser talk. Alan, I'm going to give you the floor. How good is Buffalo?
So a couple of things. So first of all, I'm going to backtrack on Burrow just a second because that was a little bit too positive. So I wanted to be a wet blanket. They came really close to losing to a Raiders team that basically did a lot of the same shit Dallas did, especially Derek Carr late.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Now, for the record, I like Burrow, but it makes me nervous for moving forward next week. Okay. Longtime Bills fan, as you guys know. So obviously I wake up expecting the worst. I fully expect Tyreek Hill to run out of the stands and catch a pass for a touchdown with less than a second left, and the Chiefs beat the Bills, and it's somehow not a reviewable play or some crazy shit like that happens. So you're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. That said, first of all, just from I'm a Mets fan too, and I immediately put that Micah Hyde interception up there with that Andy Chavez home run robbery from the 2006 NLCS.
The game was over right then. When he made that play,
Whew.
the game was over. You could turn it off. It was over.
Yeah, I mean, Dennis, you guys are right here with me. I mean, we can count dozens of Hall of Fame corners, DBs. I mean, he's more of a safety, so forgive me for saying corner, but we've seen Lott, we've seen Easley, and I'm not saying he's as good as those guys, but what I will say is that pick was as good as one that I've seen. As far as a safety making a pick, running it down like a receiver in the corner of the end zone, and that was crazy.
Ed Reed comes to mind. Like, that's the guy that I think about that, like, he's the best, like, center field free safety I ever saw.
Yeah.
Like, that's a play Ed Reed would make, and maybe one or two other guys that I can't think of right now.
Right. But, we knew day one Josh Allen had a cannon. He still likes to remind us very frequently, and sometimes you still get surprised. Like that first touchdown pass. I mean, I don't think he technically did anything correct from a technical throwing standpoint on that throw, but he can get the ball to spots, and he runs the ball, and I think the bigger thing, for that. He's just such a perfect fit for that city, for the weather there. I'm not saying he couldn't be great there, but it would be tough to be Patrick Mahomes in Buffalo.
No, I would agree. Especially with a dumbass brother, but we're not going to go there.
I mean, to be a playoff quarterback in Buffalo, you've got to be Jim Kelly, and Josh Allen has some of that in him. I mean, it's almost heresy to say that, but like I said, I've learned to expect the worst. But that game was as positive as I have felt about the Bills, especially when you look back the last couple of seasons and some of the, they lose that game to New England this year where nobody could pass the ball. They lose that game to Arizona the season before when what's his name? Hopkins.
You talking about Kyler Murray with the Hail Mary at the end?
Yeah, Hopkins makes like one of the 4 greatest catches of all time. So this is a team that a few really crazy plays away of 24 wins over 2 seasons. So they're good. They lost one playoff game because Deshaun Watson lost his mind, and then they ran into a Chiefs buzzsaw. So I think they're good. It's going to be I think this weekend's going to be a heck of a lot of fun.
I had 2 thoughts when I watched the Buffalo game. One, what they did to New England was personal. Like, it was personal. Yes. Like, that was 20 years of getting your ass beat by Tom Brady. This was personal. Damn the torpedoes. We are taking you behind the woodshed, as the old folks would say. Like, that felt deeply personal. And then secondly, I don't think it's crazy to say that if at his apex, Josh Allen might be better than Mahomes. I don't think it's crazy to think that or say that now because of his ability to run and throw. I mean, that one touchdown to Sanders in the back of the end zone was like a 45-yard frozen rope in 10-degree weather. There are only a handful of guys that have ever played football that can do that.
I mean, you guys are going to know what it means for me to say this because of past conversations we've had. That was an Elway throw.
Yes, that like Elway is one of the guys that comes to mind that could throw the ball that way, frozen rope, 45-yard. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Gun to my head, the best 2 quarterbacks I ever saw are Elway and Aaron Rodgers. Gun to my head. I don't know that Brady will be considered the best, but the best 2 I ever saw were Rodgers and Elway. But if Allen reaches his apex, he's there at 6'5". And your point about the weather is critical. The wind could blow however it wants to blow in Buffalo. Only a handful of guys have a cannon like that to where the wind becomes almost irrelevant. And he's one of those guys. So that being said, I'll just open this up to the group. The league was really smart about making that the very last game on Sunday. I think that game's at like 6:30 or 7. So Do you guys really think they can? They do. I mean, they did it earlier this year, but do you really think they can go in there and win um, against Kansas City at night with that place rocking? Not to mention the idea that somebody would go into Kansas City twice in 1 year and beat them is really hard to kind of envision. And because it's the playoffs, you kind of give Mahomes the benefit of the doubt and whatnot. But do you really see Buffalo really pulling this off?
I mean, I guess I would say if there was a quarterback in the AFC that was going to do it, it would be Josh Allen. But, money on the line, are you betting against Mahomes at home? And I don't know.
If Tom Brady's on the other side, okay.
But that's the thing. That's the thing. His only loss in leading up to the Super Bowl would be Brady, right? If I'm not mistaken, since he's been the starter.
No, that's correct.
So basically, if you're not Tom Brady, you're going to have to hold this L
until somebody comes in there and makes it happen.
Like I said, and that's, I don't want to straddle the fence, but like I would pick Kansas City. I think it would be close, but it certainly would not shock me if Allen came in and if they came in there and did it, because they've already done it.
For pure nostalgia reasons, now I kind of want Buffalo and Cincinnati, just for pure nostalgia reasons, because I seem to remember late 80s, early 90s, Jim Kelly, K-gun offense against Boomer and the no-huddle offense, and they're just running up and down the field in Riverfront. I seem to remember.
Great game.
Yeah,
oh my God!
I seem to remember that.
Maybe you can get Andy Reid to wear a Chiefs sweater like Marty Schottenheimer used to wear.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Whatever you need.
Or maybe Zach Taylor can wear one that says Bengals.
I was just going to say the little homework I did for tonight. I keep an eyeball on the NFL and in particular the Bills because of Allen, and my brother-in-law is a big Bills fan, so I will chat with him. And I think that if I looked at the stats right, I think the Bills had the number one defense in the NFL this year in terms of yards given up or whatever the measuring stick is. So they've got really good defenders, right? And they've already beaten Kansas City once. So anything's possible. I think Jared Allen's a great player. I actually enjoy watching them play, which is, that's always a plus, right? I mean, there's some teams that are successful and you almost can't even stand watching them. Like, for some reason, I never liked the Seahawks with Wilson. I didn't really like their team when they were good and winning a lot of games, but they're a fun team. I think they got a good chance, man.
So, Pat, speaking of things you might not want to see, are you guys comfortable with the idea of seeing Rodgers and Brady again for the NFC title in Lambeau 2 years in a row?
You know me, I'm a Brady guy, so yeah, I'm all about it. I'm all about it. Let's bring it on. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm there for it. I think I mean, I love it when little shit happens to Hall of Fame players that gives them that excuse to have a chip on their shoulder again. And so that could be kind of fun with Rodgers being able to walk out onto the field with a little bit of, hey, I kind of want to shove this up these guys' ass today. So, yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah, I guess it could be. I guess for me, I don't have any beef with Aaron Rodgers on any level at all, but I think it's a better story to me if San Francisco finds a way to win, which is not inconceivable given how physical of a football team they are. If they win and Tampa wins, and now Brady's got to beat Jimmy, and Belichick's like nowhere near any of this, and now we get to kind of settle this. Was Jimmy ever better than Brady? And we know the answer is no, but that seems to be more compelling of a matchup to me, because no one loses in a Brady-Rodgers matchup, but the idea of Brady winning an 8th Super Bowl, I mean, I just want to see somebody else. And as much as I want to see the Rams in the Super Bowl in their home stadium, I don't know. I don't know that I can trust their quarterback, but porn star Jimmy, as Stephen A. calls him, I like the idea of porn star Jimmy, and Brady for the marbles.
Yeah, I just don't. For me, it's. I agree with what you say about the Niners matchup with Green Bay. They played them tough earlier this year, but you know how sports are a funny thing, right? Where I think back to years where you'd see a team like the 2003 Syracuse Orange, right? I didn't think they were going to win a national championship, but every game they played, I thought they were going to win. And this 49ers team, I think they can beat the Packers, but I don't think they have any prayer of getting to the Super Bowl. So it's one of those things where it's like, I kind of want them to lose just because I'm real sure they can't win that third game in a row.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It'd be hard to see them winning the third game, just because I just don't think they don't. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I'd be.
But yeah.
I was going to say I'd be hypocritical if I didn't, as much criticism as I throw at LeBron for staying around too long. I'm with you. I'd kind of want to see, one of these new guys get a crack at the Super Bowl. I know the old guard, the Rodgers and Brady, aren't quite ready to hang it up yet, I guess, but we've seen them enough. I'd like to get one of these guys, these younger stars. And
although, Pat, I would say a Rodgers-Mahomes Super Bowl is appointment television because we didn't get a chance to see that because someone claimed they were immunized. So the idea that we could get that back in
that's a different show.
Hey, I'm just saying for the record, man said he was immunized and there was no such thing. But the idea that we could get that in the Super Bowl, I would sign me up for that. So if Green Bay wins this weekend, then I'm going to pull for them, provided the Chiefs win too. Because I would like to see that because we didn't get to see that earlier in the year. And then the last thing I just want to mention real quick, and a lot's been said about Antonio Brown. I don't want to go too deep into that, but I did have this random thought the other day. And I guess, Brian, I would look to you as our resident Steeler. For me, and I could be on an island by myself here, so this could be a party of one, but Tyreek Hill gives me AB vibes. Am I way off base in that?
No. Certainly. I think Tyreek Hill, he might be the fastest person in the NFL. And if you combine that with good route running, you're going to be damn near unstoppable. He might as well just be a blur. His name should just be Blur because half the time when he runs, it's just a blur on the screen. So absolutely, I could see it. You and I have kind of talked about AB and certainly his mental prowess, if you will. So Tyreek,
or lack thereof.
And Tyreek's got some stuff in his past too. So I'm not.
That's kind of where I'm going. Like these guys are kind of the same guy.
Yeah, but it seems as though Tyreek can hold it together a little bit better, I guess. And it also helps when you have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. So that kind of gives you a little bit more reason to hold it together.
Rising tide floats all boats.
Yeah.
So we know AB's not coming back. But speaking of coming back, Clay is back. Clay Thompson's back, and Clay looks good.
This sounds like an ISO. Should we just get out the lane?
Yeah, that's kind. I kind of feel like this is kind of like a 1-4 down, if you will. If you're familiar with that lingo. So with that, we're just going to go ahead and pass the rock to Allen and get off his corner.
Yeah, I've got the four fingers up in the air, calling the play. So, man, it is fun, and let's get past. Let's pretend social media didn't exist. Let's ignore the camps of the players and the Twitter bots and let's ignore all of that and remember what it's like when a basketball team builds from the ground up. and gets good. And then they make a deal for a vet like an Iguodala, and it puts him over the top. And, I mean, it's ironic that Klay Thompson averaged 11 points a game as a rookie, because Reggie Miller averaged 11 points a game as a rookie. And the two are so similar, even though Klay's a much better defender. But it's been fascinating to see, even with all of there's plenty of Warrior love. I just went to Cleveland, took my family a couple months ago, and there were a whole lot of Steph jerseys in the house. There's plenty of Warrior love, especially amongst the youngsters. But there's been a lot of hate over the years. But somehow this one guy is just regular enough for being a billionaire, hanging out with his dog, riding in his boat, that, I mean, he had 2 tough injuries and was out for over 2 years. But, and again, social media has amplified everything. But this was almost iconic for the league. I mean, they sold this. This was hashtag Klay Day. And it's just, it's been really fun to have him back. I feel like he's already dribbled more this season than he did a whole season a few ago. But it just really, the time away really made me appreciate everything that he brings. For a kid who's the son of an NBA player, he's as hard-nosed of a defender as most scorers are ever going to be. I mean, your Tony Allens are always going to be hard-nosed defenders, right? And then they average 8 points a game. But for a guy who wins 3-point contests and averages 20 a game, he mixes it up, and his teammates love him, and his opponents love him, and fans of all of their opponents love him. And he's just such a unique guy, kind of a galvanizing player that just reminds everybody that, what's really cool is when you can put the ball in the hoop, and when you just kind of chill. And it just made me think of all the stories of, I remember Draymond one time being like, yeah, I woke up one day in Klay's apartment and I knew, what did I just do last night? And Klay's he's just a unique guy. And it made me look back, for similar to Reggie. I mean, Reggie was the man in Indiana. So it's a little different because, Klay has sat alongside, KD and Steph are no joke. But Klay had his game 6 against OKC changed the course of this league. It changed the course of the league. It changed how history was written.
They should not have won that game.
No.
They should not have won that game.
And then backing off and just being a fan for a minute, if I'm ever in a shitty mood, which being in an office job can happen more often than not, nothing will bring me out of it like watching a 37-point quarter or watching a 60-point game with 11 dribbles. He's just so unique and so explosive, and so unassuming about it. And I'm thrilled he's back. He looks good so far. Like I said, he's going to the rack more than he ever has already, right out of the gate. But like I said, more so, I'm just thrilled he's back, and just watching them in pregame, and the way he bitches about how Steph comes out and crowds his pregame times because he knows the fans get a kick out of it, and Klay's like, no, I want my time to myself. Leave me alone. It's all been great. Are they going to win a title? I don't know. We all know the NBA is basically who survives, who's healthy at the end. But they're going to be really fun. Kuminga makes it interesting, but again, more importantly, it's just great having Klay Thompson back. Just a great personality, great player, and one of the 5 best shooters I've ever seen.
So as we wrap up Klay Appreciation Hour, I will just say that as a shooter, he's the one that scares me more than Curry. Like, I accept that Curry is the greatest shooter of all time, that he can hit 9, 10 threes in a game. I get all that, and that's all spectacular, and that's great. And probably on some other episode, we'll discuss how it is my belief that Curry is slowly deteriorating basketball as a whole by giving kids false hope. But that being said, I will say Clay is the one that scares me. And you mentioned something and it triggered a thought for me. You'll have to Google this, kids, but Klay Thompson has real Derek Jeter gift basket vibes, if you know what I'm saying. And I'll just leave it at that. Go look that up, kids, and you'll understand what I'm saying. But I'm glad Klay's back. It's good. And what's interesting about it is that, you know, basketball's better when Golden State is, you know, really clicking. Basketball is supposed to be good when the Lakers are clicking, and the Lakers are not clicking. And that is an understatement. This is a shitty team. And I'm going to say that again. This is a shitty team. And I'm saying this for all my friends that are Lakers fans. This is a shitty team that you root for right now. And so I'm curious, with all this in the air about whose fault is it why they're playing so bad. And now there's calls that, you know, Frank Vogel had to get permission last night to bench Westbrook. That feels real 1970s Al Davis calling down from the owner's box saying, go deep on the next play. I'm curious, what do you guys think? Are the Lakers really as bad as what they appear to be? Or is there something that we're missing? Or is this just a shitty team that's like really, really older than they should be?
So I'll jump in and then shut up because I just talked a lot. But there's a writer I follow out west, Tim Kawakami, for The Athletic. He's covered the Bay Area for decades. And one of the things that he's always said is the last thing you saw is not what's always going to happen. And the best you saw a player play is better than they're ever going to be again. And the worst you saw them play is worse than they're ever going to be again. It's a long-winded thing, but I think it's well-intentioned, and I think his point is good. That, you know, sports is such a weird ride, that those peaks and valleys, we overreact, especially in social media. That said, not a lot of great signs. I mean, things can turn on a dime. I mean, we've known Westbrook has had some issues when guarded by good teams for a while. I've seen the cynical people post things about how, oh, here comes the LeBron cycle of he brings in his players, things don't go as well. All of a sudden, the narrative is LeBron has no help. I'm not interested in arguing the LeBron, you know, media thing. They're not good defensively. If AD were healthier and such, you know, they'd probably be better. But right now they don't look very good. They don't look. Their spacing isn't good. So we'll see. But they'll sneak into the playoffs and could be dangerous if.
Alan, you're being way too nice. We got to call a spade a spade. Okay. AD is a brittle person. He has a brittle spirit. That's who that man is. What's the name? And you guys will know it better than I would. What's the name of Sam Jackson's character in the movie where Bruce Willis, they're all superheroes? Mr. Glass. That's it.
Yep.
His ass is Mr. Glass. And honestly, Westbrook is one of the 3 worst contracts in the league. For a guy to make $40-some million a year and can't shoot is just, he's got real Dak Prescott vibes right now. And let's just call it, we got to call, if we're going to speak the truth, let's speak the truth. LeBron is a shitty GM. The idea that they got together and thought that they could make this work, LeBron, it is not 2007. You can't put Carmelo and Dwight Howard and Russell Westbrook on the same team in 2022.
Well, that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. I mean, I'll say, to piggyback off of Alan, I think there's this odd possibility that they could pull things together get into the playoffs and go on a run. But I still think that the age factor, right, of this team, and AD is he's many things. I think he's a good player. I don't know that he's a top 75 player. I think we had that conversation.
No, he is not. For the record, he is
I think
not.
I think we either had that in a text or maybe on the last time we got together here. But
He is not.
I'm a Kentucky basketball fan and watched him in college, and I followed his NBA career early on in New Orleans, and I like the guy. I don't know that he's one of those top 75. But I guess that my feeling is that he is LeBron is a shitty GM. I'll give you that. And putting this group together, I think there was always going to be that issue if one of the better younger guys gets hurt. And of course, I think AD's been injured quite a bit this season. So, I mean, I'm looking at their record. They're 22 and 23. They don't feel like a championship team, especially when you look at, the Western Conference, and you've got the Suns, Warriors, and Grizzlies who are killing it, and the Jazz are great. And these are all teams that are comprised of very young superstar players. Well, maybe not Golden State. They're the exception in that conversation, right? They have good young players. Jordan Poole's good. The Wiseman kid is great. There's a couple other guys I'm blanking on their names, but they have the right mix. Kaminga, there it is. They have the right mix of those.
And they have continuity.
Yeah, once in a generational players in Thompson and Green and Curry together with this group is kind of makes them a dangerous element. But John Morant's fantastic. Booker obviously is 8, and those guys in Phoenix is 34-9 right now. So
they're fucking good.
They're a good basketball.
They're good.
Team. They're a real good basketball team, and I haven't really paid much attention to the Eastern Conference this year, and I guess it's just not as interesting to me. The players that I like to watch are all out west, so I'm looking at the standings. I'm seeing the Bulls in first, in Miami.
Oh, the Cavs are hot. Cavs are the biggest surprise in the league.
And and the Cavaliers are 27 and 19, and they're playing competent basketball. So I'll have to probably give a closer eye here as we get closer to the All-Star break and the home stretch. But I guess what my point is, I haven't really watched the Bucks. I don't know if they look good. We talked about Kyrie, and he's now going to be a part-time guy. So I guess we'll see what that looks like. But anyway, I'll stop talking. If Brian, you want to add any thoughts?
Real quick, Patrick, I'll give you this. I mean, the Bucks are the Bucks. I mean, they gave it to the Warriors the other night. Now, I mean, it was a little bit of a schedule loss, maybe, but still, the Bucks should get props for what they did. But I got to say, you mentioned Cleveland. I look at that top 6. And the teams I most enjoy watching play are the Cavs are probably the team that I have the most fun watching play of that top 6 in the East.
Yeah, Cavs are fun. Speaking of the East, the East in my mind is really wide open because Milwaukee's been a little up and down. They've had guys out with COVID and whatnot. Atlanta fell flat on its face, which is really disappointing. They kind of caught lightning in a bottle, but they don't play any defense. Philly they're just wasting Embiid's prime. It's just so fucking frustrating to watch because last night he puts up a 50 burger, but they refuse to trade Simmons. But, it's about the Nets because Durant's out for like 6 weeks now. Harden has clearly not met a cheeseburger he didn't fall in love with because this dude is completely overweight and out of shape. And he's still getting 23 points a night, which just makes me think, why the hell am I paying you $30+ million a year and you can't stay in shape? Like, this is frustrating. But this call goes back to Kyrie because we've reached a point where now people are openly saying, does it make sense for the Nets to go into the playoffs without home court advantage so they can get Kyrie on the floor in a Game 7 on the road? What kind of fucking world are we living in where this is this is a possibility? Like, I'm sorry, but this dude, if he was my teammate, I would try to fucking fight him all the time. You can't do this to us. You can't. And I will die on this hill.
Well,
And the
first of all,
comments
if
he
he was
made
your
the other
teammate,
day, I was like, man, I'm glad I'm not your teammate.
well, if he was your teammate, you might only be able to fight him on the road because that's when he would be available.
Then he gets his ass whooped at every road game if I have to see him. Like,
every time you go to Indiana, fisticuffs.
You ain't smarter than science, motherfucker. Come on.
Well, I will say this. I will circle back to the LeBron thing for just a brief moment. I do think in some ways, and I think I've told you guys before, but I think LeBron is, I don't want to call him the NBA's like sugar high, but, he comes to your team, you're going to win, you're going to win a championship, and everything is cool. So you get that initial like sugar high, that rush of winning a championship. We're number one, rah, rah. But I heard David Griffin talk about the good thing about having LeBron is that you have LeBron on your squad. But the bad thing about having LeBron on your squad is that LeBron's constantly pressing you to do things that you normally wouldn't do. And so because he does that and he's LeBron and he holds all the cards, if you don't do it, well, then he can split. But then inevitably when he splits, or with the Lakers, whenever he retires, he's going to, you can just look back at what the Lakers are going to be, what the Cavs were, what the Heat was. It's just going to be nothing but salary cap misery and guys that are our age who are out here trying to play. And that's just what he leaves in his wake. But, hey, you get your championship. So it's kind of, that's kind of.
The sugar high analogy is pretty good. Like that is what it is. Like you get that rush of dopamine and then all of a sudden you're chasing that high again after that.
Because think about it. They won in the bubble. Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, they won a title. Yeah.
Yeah. So they won a title. But in exchange for winning the title, now you have to look at Westbrook and and
he's on your squad next year too for $45 million.
Yeah, and you know what? But here's the thing: I think part of life, in sports aside, I think part of life is knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at, right? And your limitations, your capabilities and your limitations. And kudos to your guy, Alan Mello, who was like, you know what? I'm a bench guy now. I'm not going to come in here. I'm not going to try to start. I'm just going to be a bench guy. I'll do whatever you need me to do. Like, whatever that drink is, that's what Westbrook needs to be drinking. Like, you are not this guy. And once you realize that you are not that guy, they might actually be able to do something. But I think you're stuck with him. So
but you just said it, though. It's once you realize. He's never realized that he's not that guy. He plays one way and he's only going to play one way, and you're going to have to accept it. And last night it got to the point where it was like, no, we can't accept this anymore. And you said something I think is important. LeBron is very similar to Bill Belichick in this way. Bill Belichick, the GM, screws over Bill Belichick, the coach, because he picks the players. And LeBron is the same way. That LeBron's out here picking his teammates as if it's still 2009. And these guys are way washed up and over the hill now. The idea that you're playing Dwight Howard 25, 30 minutes a night or DeAndre Jordan, you got to stop, man. And this team has no ability to improve. Like, no one wants Taylor Horton Tucker.
Well,
nobody even knows who that is. You have three names. You have three names.
To that
no one knows who you are.
To that point, like Pat was talking about how great Phoenix is. Phoenix has got young legs, right? They're going to be able to just run the Lakers out the gym. And Golden State, yes, they got Clay and they have Steph and they got Draymond. But you know what? They got some young legs along the way too. Maybe not as many as Phoenix.
Yeah, but in Golden State, shoot. It's a little different. Shoot.
Yeah.
And you'll always be in the league if you can shoot.
Yeah, but the Lakers have they traded off all their young cats, and so that was my Lakers thing. But in terms of the East, I don't know if we have enough time for Nick's corner with Brian and Alan.
We got
we'll put
time.
that to the side.
What else are we
I'm
doing?
I'm kidding. But to me, it just seems like it's the Nets to lose. Because to me, it's going to be the Nets and the Bucks in the end. Because to your point, Embiid is great and he's talented and he is all world, but he can't do it by himself. And how they let the Simmons thing get to this point is beyond me. That might be another conversation. But at the end of the day, like, he just can't do it by himself. And then if you put them to the side, it's the Nets, it's the Bucks. Maybe somebody else will arise, maybe Chicago, but I don't know how sustainable Chicago is.
Anybody but the Nets. Anybody but the Nets.
I mean,
anybody but them.
The guy who I feel bad for is Durant, because I think he's one of the greatest players to ever play. But I mean, I guess I can agree with that. Anybody but the Nets. I guess they're. I don't know.
Well, between that and Philly wasting Embiid's prime, I mean, what he did last night, I mean, he had 2 20-point quarters in the same game.
Did they lose?
They won because they played Orlando, so everybody wins when they play Orlando. But they're just gonna completely waste his prime. Like, this is malpractice by the Sixers at this point, for you to have a generational talent like this and you wasted it. Not to mention, one of the things I did want to talk about is there appears to be a bit of a center renaissance, because on the same night last night where Embiid drops 50, Jokic comes out and has 49, 14, and 10 as a center. And
he's not a center. He's not a real center.
Listen. You don't get 10 assists a game out of a center unless you're Wilt Chamberlain. Like, what that guy's doing, there's a bit of a center renaissance going on now.
Well, first of all, if his brothers say he's a center, then he's a center.
Well, that's
you got
true,
that right.
Damn right.
You got that right. See, you don't know struggle like Eastern European struggle is what they trying to tell you.
But Jokic is just a tall basketball player to me, right? Like, what some centers look like, and certainly centers in this era aren't the guys that we grew up watching. But my God, he doesn't play like a center. He plays like just a really good basketball player that happens to be 7 foot tall, right?
No, I would agree with that.
But he does occupy the center position for them.
Oh, I certainly agree. I just mean that
0.5. He's a 0.5.
He's doing so many other things, and the assists are certainly part of the players that he has around him. He has some pretty good shooters there, and I get that. But I mean,
did you see the clip from the other night when they were playing Utah, and he got matched up with Gobert, and I'm not ripping Gobert. I mean, Gobert is the deal. He's probably underappreciated, but Gobert was like, "No, I got him. You hear him scream, I got him." And Jokic goes, "Dude, I've got 47."
Honestly, Jokic might be the most unathletic yet most effective player I've ever seen. Like, he is everything, and you guys will appreciate this. He is everything that Bill Walton was supposed to be, but never could be because his body failed him. Like, when's the last time you saw a guy, Jokic? When's the last time you saw a guy that was this unathletic and was this effective playing basketball?
Well, what I imagine, Dennis. First of all, yes, I thought the exact same thing that prime Jokic and prime Walton were probably pretty similar. I mean, I don't want to take too much from Walton, because I did, I was not watching the '78 Blazers, but it also, he makes me think of, this is what it would have been like if Sabonis had gotten here 8 years earlier.
That's fair.
Oh, that's a good point.
In his prime, Sabonis is, that's the comparison right there.
Yeah, and I think, but the difference though is that they weren't shooting threes. I mean, this guy shoots really well from three, and it's It's amazing, actually.
Pat, you might have to pick him up full court. Like the idea that I have to pick up a 7-footer full court.
You do. If he's hitting. I mean, he's incredible. He's one of my favorite players to watch, play basketball right now. And I just enjoy that guy a lot. I like the Eastern European nonsense. His brothers are insane. He's not exactly insane himself. So I mean, it's just he's fun to watch. I don't think. Oh, go ahead, Alan. Sorry,
but no, Patrick. That seriously, and I mean, maybe I'm just tired. Dennis says the words "fake tough guy" more than I do, and I know Draymond gets on Dennis's nerves, but I always say, well, at least he's from Saginaw.
Yeah, I have a real love-hate with him.
But it's the freaking Morris guys with me are the ones that I so when Jokic,
wait a minute, those are Philly guys. Those are Philly guys. If you're going to say Saginaw, those guys are Philly guys.
Yeah, they are Philly guys. Yeah, I'll give you that. But like when Jokic laid him out, and then the next time they played and his brother was there and everybody was like, oh, it's cool.
I love how his brothers bought tickets behind the bench.
Yeah.
Like they sat behind. They wanted all the smoke. Like, yes, we're here.
They did. They don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they're from an Eastern European country. Like they don't. It's shit's different over there.
Very different. We have it very good compared to what these poor guys had to deal with most of their life. So good for them for being able to.
So that being said, real quick before we pivot over to something else, real quick, Brian Allen, your Knicks are really struggling. Although I will say, for the record, they are right where they were last year, but the difference is the expectation. That's the difference. They feel like they're struggling because no one expected them to do what they did last year, and now you expect a little more. And they just can't give it. Like they squeezed all the water out of that rock, and this is an okay basketball team, and they kind of hit their ceiling.
Well, their thing is scoring. Like they've always, even going back to last year, they needed scoring in the worst way. Tibbs is going to have them straight on defense. You know that's going to happen, but it's just for them. They just need scoring, and this year I think they're just a little bit. Obviously a little flatter than what they were last year. And like you said, that might be just with expectation, but hopefully let me backtrack. I think they were probably thinking if we can bring in Kemba, we bring in Fournier, maybe that'll give us a little bit of scoring. But I'm really hoping once Cam Reddish is healthy, then maybe that'll help out.
You're being too nice. You're being too nice. Just go on and say it. Just go on and say it.
You want me to nod, or Brian, you want to keep going?
No. I was just going to say, because Julius is going to give you, the same every night. So you got that in the bank, for better or for worse, when he's not thumbs downing the crowd. But I will defer to you, Alan.
So I'll say it because I've lived it. You guys, the Knickerbockers and the Warriors. I've lived it. I will never talk shit about Mark Jackson. He came to the Golden State franchise. He brought a culture of defending. They won 40-some games. They became a playoff team. They upset a higher-seeded Nuggets team. Andre Iguodala joins the team. They get better, but they still get beat. And the Warriors had a tough conversation and said, and Zach Lowe of ESPN wrote about it, they've got way too many smart players who know how to play, pass, and shoot to be taking this many shots at the end of the shot clock. And every fucking time I watch the Knicks play, and I'm not saying the Knicks have Steph, Clay, Draymond, I'm not saying that, but goddamn, they take a lot of tough shots. They take a lot of tough shots, and they take a lot of them at the end of the shot clock. And I don't mind Fournier. You guys know I like the international game, and he lights it up in the international game.
He's streaky.
He is.
He's streaky.
But very streaky, but he's a solid contributor most
Listen,
nights.
he
He's
is
gonna give you
Jamie
16.
Skelton, Ohio State basketball,
Oh my
1991.
God! Don't say Jamie Skelton.
When he's on, he's on, and when he's off, good Lord.
But
Man,
I think
you're
part
dating
of
yourself.
I think part of that is the situation, and I respect the hell out of Tibbs. You guys know how I feel about some of the other stuff he does in terms of playing time for guys. I think this team with Tibbs, I think any team with Tibbs, again, I respect the hell out of him. Any team with him has a ceiling.
Listen. I love you guys,
right.
but I am not going to let you stand on this Knicks corner and speak this blasphemy that's coming out of y'all, and y'all not talking about the elephant in the room. I don't understand why you guys are not out here with your chest out on the Knicks corner talking about you getting Zion.
Oh shit! Let's not do that.
Well,
I don't know.
There,
I'm not gonna let y'all stand here on the corner and act like and tiptoe around Tibbs and he doesn't have offense and Kemba's knee and we get tough shots and fuck all that. You guys are angling for Zion, period, the end. Once you made the trade for Reddish, all I could see was the Chappelle Show meme when he was dressed up like Rick James looking in the camera like, yeah, come on home. That's the only thing I could think about.
No, I think. Well,
hold
on. I think Zion is angling to get to New York. Whether
yeah.
New York
Agreed.
is wanting Zion is a different story.
He never wanted to be in New Orleans. Nobody wants to.
When's the last star New York had? When's the last star?
Carmelo, son of a bitch.
Oh, Carmelo.
Right, Carmelo. And that was 5 fucking years ago.
Well, it was longer than that.
Right, it's probably longer than that. They need Zion as much as Zion needs them. When he played there last year and said, I love playing here. Come on. And they traded for his home. Now he's got his 2 teammates from college. Get out of here.
It could be.
I'm not saying it's not happening. All I'm saying is this. Coaches do certain things. Tibbs is a guy who builds your defensive resilience. He is not going to win you a title because you've got to be. It's this era of the NBA is too difficult. There are too many counters. The way that teams move and switch, and I mean you've got to have something different. So I think they're going to.
You can't touch anybody. You can't hand check. There is no hard foul anymore. That's why I don't like having conversations about, well, could this team beat this team? I need to know the rules first. If I can hand check you, if I can put Danny Fortson in the game with 6 fouls and give you 6 hard fouls the way the X-Man would give you 6 hard fouls, or Oakley or Mahorn, if I can't touch you, this is a very different, they don't want that type of basketball anymore. So I'm with you. Like, Tibbs is a dinosaur at this point. Like, basketball's not played that way. Yes, you still have to play defense, but you can't touch players anymore. You want to see the artistry and the flow of the game, and you want every game. Ideally, the best case scenario for the NBA is to get like a Phoenix, like Brooklyn final, where every game is up and down in a fashion of the highest scoring game of all time between Detroit and Denver that night in Mile High in like 83. Now, Pat, I'm dating myself. Where like everybody on the court went for 35. Like, that is what they want, but it's not played. Tibbs doesn't play that way. But I'm not going to let you guys get on here on Nick's Corner and not talk about how you guys aren't angling for Zion.
Well, and maybe but the thing I'll add, so we're 22 and 23. We're in the 11th spot right now. The Raptors are 21 and 21. The Celtics are 23 and 23. The Wizards are 23 and 22 in the 8th spot. So we're talking about a matter of 2 days to get in there. And then the Hornets are in the 7th spot at 25 and 20. So this is a team that could sneak in. And for all the shit that I just talked about Tibbs, because I do think and, well, really know, offensively, he is limited. If you're rolling the ball out to Barrett, Quickly, Toppin, Reddish, and then a couple of those rim runners.
Mitchell Robinson's not bad.
Mitchell
for what he does. For what he does, he's not
for
bad.
what I mean,
he's a poor man's DeAndre Jordan.
I mean,
that's all I need. That's all I need.
Yeah, that's all you need.
I mean, how confident are the Bulls against that team when you're relying on a DeRozan who doesn't shoot threes? I mean, I guess Levine shoots threes, but I'm not saying they can't make noise, but I think they've got an angle for the future, and I don't know that Tibbs is the guy.
Oh, they'll dump Tibbs as soon as they can get Zion. He's out of there. They'll dump him as soon as they can get Zion.
I think we've been saying that Tibbs is a he's not going to be there forever, right? This was a guy to get the interest back, right? To demonstrate that the front office was, competent and drafting players, and they have been. They've done really well the last couple of years. So it's a good move for them, but this is still a work in progress. I think some of the Knicks fans probably came into the season thinking, well, Christ, we got a good team here. We can get moving, but they're not there yet. In fact, the Cavaliers got better than them.
Yeah, Tibbs is Tony Dungy in Tampa Bay. That's what you guys are saying, and I don't disagree with that. But it does make me think a little bit, sort of switching gears. So, based on what you guys have seen so far, who's your MVP?
Oh,
best player in the league. Best player in the league right now. Who's your MVP?
Honestly, it's either got to be either Steph or it's probably LeBron, because as much as shit as we talk about the Lakers, they're a 500 team. If LeBron's on that team, that is
what he's doing at 37 is unheard of.
That's what I'm saying.
He's playing the five. He's playing the five.
If you're the true essence of the most valuable player on some level is, what would you be if you took that person off that team?
And that's why the answer to the question is Ja Morant. That's the MVP.
About him. Yeah.
There ain't nobody playing at a higher level than him. Consistently.
I think
ain't nobody playing at a higher level than him.
I'm a huge Ja Morant fan, obviously. Love the new guys, as I mentioned earlier, these younger teams, but traditionally that award doesn't usually go to guys like that.
Yeah, I know.
I like what you said, and I think he's certainly a candidate. But as much as I hate to say it, yeah, I mean, LeBron is probably the most valuable player to his team under the circumstances. Yeah, I don't know. Trae Young.
No, they're under 500.
I guess so, but so's LA.
Trae DeBarge?
Yeah, but LeBron makes them 500. With Trae Young, they're still under 500.
Yeah, but it is criminal what the Lakers are doing, asking a 37-year-old man to do all of that for them.
Oh, I don't disagree.
That's criminal.
I don't disagree, but to your point, Alan, or Dennis, I can't remember who said it, but for him to be, and I'm using air quotes, old, for LeBron to be that old and still having 30-point nights, that's
hold on. So Tubbs, by that logic, this is the same argument that they had for Barry Bonds. There's no way this man at this age is doing this. He's got to be on something. I'm not saying LeBron's on anything because there's no evidence that he is, but that's the argument that you got from Bonds has got to be on something. There's no way.
Until you prove it, he's not, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But I would defer to my baseball experts on the Bonds piece. But
yeah,
I'm in the minority. Bonds is the best player of all time. I'm in the minority. That's my guy.
Is he getting in? I hope he's getting in.
I'm there with you, Dennis, on the thing with baseball, as we've said before, it's incredibly difficult to pinpoint a best player, but I think Alan and I might have landed on Hank Aaron overall, just because of
probably so, because Hank's got the numbers. But
certain,
best I saw, Bonds and
the
Griffey.
best we saw, Bonds and Griffey for sure.
Bonds and Griffey, best I saw.
Yeah, offensive players, yeah, not pitchers, but sure, yeah, he's. I guess I don't know where I was going with that. But yeah, Bond's probably up there as far as the best you ever saw play baseball.
You know where you were going. You were about to say that LeBron's on something. It's okay. He was juicing. That's all right.
I'm not
this is a safe space. You can say that.
I'm not the conspiracy guy here. That's all Alphonse Dog. He's Mr. Everyone's juicing who's doing things at ages they shouldn't be.
All I'm saying is
he's
you've
probably
never seen
right.
All I'm saying is you've never seen a guy at 37 years old in the NBA do what LeBron's doing. It's unheard of.
No, because even Kareem was starting to dip towards the end, but he was still an effective player, but he wasn't that effective, right?
Jordan wasn't the player that he was when he came back at 38 to play for the Wizards. Like,
Ooh.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, like this is unheard of. And it's criminal what the Lakers are asking LeBron to do. But this goes back to my point. LeBron is a terrible GM. And we're not talking about that enough. Stop picking players, LeBron. That's not your job.
Yeah, agreed. And the thing I'll add to the MVP debate real quick is, first of all, as you guys know, the MVP awards are complete fucking horse shit. I mean, there have been so many terrible more so in baseball than in basketball. But I mean, it's just it's embarrassing. The awards that have been given out over the years, and you see that it's about sports writers and their relationships, blah 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 blah. But I love adopting the old hockey plus minus stat in the NBA, and I'm not saying it's it's not the end all be all. But it's fun to kind of look at and see and you start to look at your MVP candidates and realize that, and I don't have it in front of me, so shame on me. But when Steph's on the floor, they've outscored their opponents by something like 300 points this year. And it's nobody else is even remotely close to that number. So it's always fun for me just to look at that plus minus number and see, hey, you want to try to remember? I mean, there's always variables there, who's on the court, who's not, that you can't account for. But that plus minus number is always fun. And Steph has been a league leader in that pretty much every year for the past 6.
Yeah, I mean, he's an efficient player. Like, I think if there's anything I appreciate about his game, there's no wasted moment, or wasted movement, I should say.
And it's not even the efficiency, because, and forgive me, I'm getting on my soapbox, but, John Hollinger, who somehow finagled his way into a GM job with the Grizzlies and gave Chandler Parsons $94 million.
Who just retired the other day, by the way, I saw.
Yeah, Hollinger came up with the player efficiency rating, which is a very flawed rating because it was based on the fact that Michael Jordan was the greatest player, and then he built everything around that assumption. So it had players, it had James Harden being a better player than Kareem and stuff like that. But the plus minus is just when you're on the court, how much do you outscore or not outscore your opponent by? And Steph is always league leader in that and has been for a while. So it has to account for something, I suppose. Now, granted, he's a lot of what Golden State does, so that means something as well. It's not the whole story, but it's always.
I will say I'm coming around to the idea. I haven't flushed the idea out completely, but I'm coming around to the notion that it really is an open debate as to who is the greatest player of all time, and it's not necessarily Michael Jordan. And I'm coming around to this idea, but I haven't necessarily settled on it. But I know that's going to upset a lot of people that I know. But quite frankly, I don't give a shit, because it's probably good that you got your blood pressure up. Yeah, I'm coming around the idea, but we're not going to tackle that today. One of the things
Why
I do
not?
want to talk.
We know the greatest NBA player of all time. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's very simple.
Well, there you go. There. Well, thank you for simplifying it. I think he's one of those guys that gets lost in the shuffle, and he's kind of lost to time and space. Like, you have to have perspective to really appreciate, who Kareem is. I think about something I saw one time. I'm going to digress for a second. I saw an episode of Bill Maher show on HBO, and he had Nas on as a guest, and Nas was promoting the album at the time that he had out. And Bill Maher asked him, like, what's it like to, like, after all of this time and all of your success, still to be considered like one of the top 5 rappers of all time or something like that. And I thought Nas's response was perfect. He said, I'm just happy to be on anybody's list. But I think about kids that are growing up today. They didn't grow up with Jordan. Like, they don't have any sense of who Jordan was in the moment. They don't know. Like, for these kids growing up, like, their guy is LeBron. So can you imagine you are 19, 20, 21 years old, through some sort of way, you make it to the Lakers. And now LeBron's looking at you to hit crunch time shots in the fourth quarter because he's a shitty GM. That's why you're on the team. And this is the guy you had posters on the wall. And now this is your idol telling you, I need you to knock this shot down in the fourth quarter. Like, these are the guys that they look to. And so there's going to be an entire generation of kids that this is their guy, and you're not going to be able to tell them any different. But when I take a step back and look at it, because, this group has a real sense of context and history and all of those things. LeBron's got 30,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, and 9,000 assists. There's a reasonable argument that he's the best player that ever lived. But I don't think about it in those terms. But I think I'm open to the idea that Jordan isn't the greatest player of all time. And I'm reaching a point where I'm almost ready to debate it, to try to settle it. But I'm not there yet, if that makes sense.
Well, I will tell you this, like, for my kids, like, LeBron is the greatest basketball player that they've ever seen. That they have their individual favorites in terms of who they like, but overall, it's LeBron. That's why The Last Dance was so great, because for them, they're looking at it and they're like, okay, well, I hear a lot about this Michael Jordan, but, like, what is it? Like, what was it about him that makes him the greatest? So Alan, just make you might feel the same way, but they're watching it, and my oldest was like, who's Reggie Miller? Like, never heard of him.
We failed them. Oh my God, we failed them. We failed them, Tubbs. How do they not know? How do they not know?
The failure is mine. The failure is mine. Because also I took them to a baseball game, and they are having trouble reading the scoreboard. Like, well, what is this? What are these?
You're shitting me.
Yeah. So it's my fault.
No. Hold on. I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let you own that one, because I don't ever recall going to a baseball game with Dad and Dad explained to us what a box score was. We figured that out on our own. I'm not going to let you own that one.
My dad didn't tell me that shit either. But
that's what I'm saying. No, I can't let you own that one. No. That's one of those things you just kind of learn on your own. Like, nah. Mm-mm.
Well, but nonetheless, yeah. But for them, LeBron is the greatest. My oldest, his two favorite players in order is James Harden and then Russell Westbrook. So we've had some conversations about that. Nonetheless, and my other son, his favorite is Anthony Davis. So, and he is a devout Lakers fan. Like, that's his squad. Like, that's who he loves, and it hurts him when they lose. And I told him, you're going to be hurt a lot this year, so you just need to get used to it.
A lot.
You just going to have, but I told him, but that's fandom. You pick your team and you live and die with your team. So, that's what it is. That's who you run with. So
that's why you're better off not having a team. You just watch it, observe it, and don't have any truth. Pain.
That's like the wisest advice you could give.
Or like I've mentioned, lock in on a couple of franchises. If it feels like there's a vibe, I mean, I got lucky. I mean, some of it's because I'm a basketball guy, and obviously, who the basketball guys root for in the NBA? The fucking Knicks. So there's that. But Don Nelson was going on at the same time, so it's like, oh, okay. But like, it's just tough to help the kids to think about, do more than just geography. Watch the sport and enjoy it and see what you like about it and see what teams do what you like. And I'm being unrealistic for 11-year-olds to be able to do that. But I remember being a kid and doing stuff like that, and being like, oh, wow, the Syracuse team, they do a lot of fun things. What's going on here? But that's the other thing I would add to that.
It's also why my kids. That's also why my kids stay away from Arizona teams, because they just, having lived out there and they watch them up close, they're like, these guys are awful. So they.
Yeah.
My 10-year-old, his favorite team is the Seahawks, because that's a rival of the Cardinals, because they just constantly collect the Cardinals. And then my oldest likes the Ravens, which is interesting for me because obviously I'm a Steelers fan. So we kind of have a little, we go at it a little bit. But like I said, that's the fun part of being a fan. Like, you pick your fandom. I was like, I'm never going to pick your teams. You guys pick your teams, and you live and die with your team.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was in the airport, headed out of town for Thanksgiving, and I'm sitting at the bar before I catch the flight, and I'm telling the people, this is the week before Ohio State loses to Michigan. I'm like, do you understand there's an entire generation of kids that have grown up and they don't know what it's like to lose to Michigan? Like, they have no idea what it's like at all. Meanwhile, I'm scarred from 2-14-1. Like, I'm still scarred from John Cooper. So, but that's either here or there. So let's wrap on this. Because it's halfway through the season, we kind of know who's good and who isn't. Real quick, we'll just go around the horn, and Pat, I'll start with you. Who do you think makes the finals, and who do you think wins?
The NBA finals?
Yeah, NBA finals.
Oh my God. I'm gonna go Golden State, and I'll put the Bucks in there again. And
That's solid. That's solid.
And I'm hopeful that Golden State wins. I've enjoyed watching that franchise over the years. They've been incredible, and it's just the way that I like basketball to be played. But I also wanted to mention before we move on, I hadn't really been paying attention to the Eastern Conference, as I said. DeMar DeRozan's having a hell of a year at 32 years of age, isn't he?
Yeah, he's going to be he's going to start in the All-Star game.
I mean, he's averaged 25 a game at 32.
And the Lakers could have had him, and they traded for Westbrook. Just remember that.
That's to your point to LeBron's terrible GM.
Yeah, exactly. Alan, who do you want to go ahead, Brian?
But there's a side note. It was I was wondering how all those pieces that Chicago brought together were going to melt, like how they were going to mesh, because that's a lot that they brought in. But it's nice to see them bring it together.
Hey, Billy Donovan's not a terrible coach. That's
big from you. That's big from you.
Yeah,
that's big for me.
That's growth. That's progress right there.
He's not a terrible coach.
You should tell your therapist.
I wish I had one right now. I don't think he's going to get this team to a final, but I mean, he's a competent NBA coach. That's all I'll say.
Fair enough. All right, Alan, who's making the finals? Who wins?
I'll tell you, I've got the headliner, guys. I'm probably assuming more health than I should, but talk about the soap opera drama when the Warriors and the Nets play in the finals. And Steph finally gets his Finals MVP, so people stop giving him shit about not getting a bullshit award that doesn't mean anything, anyways.
You're putting a lot of faith in Kyrie. You're putting a lot of faith in Kyrie.
Well, here's a segue. Do we think he's gonna, in a week or two, just say, you know what? As closer it gets to the All-Star game, do you think he's gonna get his fucking shot and then play the rest of the season?
He's saying no. He's saying, I am committed to this. I am rooted in my conviction, and I'm not doing it. And I'm going to say, well, then kick rocks. You're out of here.
I'm putting more faith in KD than I am in Kyrie.
Yeah, KD's a fucking legend, man. He's one of a kind.
All things being equal, I would agree with you guys, but basketball's funny because the one thing about basketball that has been true since the beginning of time is I'll put my money on the team with the best chemistry. That's why I think your Golden State pick makes sense because they got continuity, they got chemistry. And Nets team is no chemistry, not with a part-time player. But
and not with a fat fuck like James Harden and his strip club addiction, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, that's you can't underestimate the power of a solid lap dance. So, Tubbs, who you got in the finals? Who do you think wins?
I want to be contrarian a little bit. I want to put the Bucks in the finals, but I don't know if they have the magic that they had from last year. And so, you know what? I'll go. I'll be different. I'll say the Bucks in the East. Somehow they pull it off. And you know what? I'm going to say Phoenix. And so we have a rematch of last year.
I fucking hate you. I fucking hate you. That's exactly what I was going to say.
If you want.
No.
But here's the difference. This year I have Phoenix winning it.
I think that in that scenario, because I've thought about it, I think that Phoenix learns what the Dirk Mavericks learned from the Dwayne Wade free throw line bullshit, and I think Phoenix wins this one if they face Milwaukee again.
Because Phoenix has got, you got Ayton coming into his prime, you got Booker coming in his prime, you locked up Bridges, you got Paul. He's not going to be able to give you, much because he's an older player now, but I mean, he's the general of it, and they're just a fun watch. They get up and down the court. I think this is if they're going to do it, it's got to be this year.
That was going to be my pick was Phoenix and Milwaukee, and I'll just say this: I think Phoenix wins it unless Giannis goes to that level, because if this is not a debate anymore. Giannis is fundamentally and unequivocally a better player than Anthony Davis. It's not up for discussion at all. If Giannis plays to his full apex potential, Milwaukee wins. If he plays any level less than his apex, Phoenix wins. To me, because I just don't think you can trust Brooklyn, and it's malpractice what they're doing in Philly, wasting Embiid's prime. And so when I think about it through that lens, Chicago's not there, and they don't have an answer for Giannis. No one does. That's what I think. But I do think it's tougher to come out of the West because Golden State is back. And
Durant missed a shot that should, let's not forget.
Well, that's because he wears shoes a size bigger than his foot.
Right.
Did you know
that's
that?
on him? Yeah, that's on him.
I just meant that series in the Eastern. I don't remember if it was the Eastern Final or the semi, but that was a very, very difficult series. And I think that Milwaukee was a blip last year, even though I picked them to go to the finals again. I don't think they're going to beat whoever comes out of the West. So I think that institution, you guys,
that institutional knowledge you gain by getting baptized by fire like that. I like Milwaukee. That they went through it. They brought their whole team back. I just think to beat Phoenix, I think they would beat Golden State because I just don't think that there's no answer for Giannis. If Giannis plays like apex predator level Giannis, that's it. They're gonna win because there's just no answer for him. Plus, he can't be embarrassed when he goes to the free throw line. That guy's up there like, I'll take 12 seconds. I don't give a shit. And so what if I go 1 for 2 on every trip? I'm still going to shoot these bitches anyway. See, that's a whole nother level of confidence that I just don't think that, American kids grow up with, because American kids, by and large, don't struggle the way that, some of these European guys struggle with. Or, you know what I mean? Like, he's just built different. So now what we're going to do as we wrap this up, we'll have to revisit this in the spring once the playoffs start and see how close we are to whether or not we got any of this right. So I tip of the cap to you guys. I hope that your predictions come true, but I will tell you now in a very transparent fashion, I'm openly rooting against any of you that are rooting for Brooklyn because I am not Team Kyrie, but that is very clear.
Well, real quick, should we do Super Bowl picks since it's NFL? And
Sure.
We can get that off the schedule there real quick.
Sure. I'll go first. Green Bay and Kansas City to me, like that. They're the two best quarterbacks. Green Bay, Kansas City.
Okay. I suppose I should probably go then since I came up with this. I'm gonna go. I'm probably going to go Tampa just because I think, I don't know, Brady's got something going on. It's probably cheating, right, Alan? That's probably it.
He's juicing. He's juiced. He's 45 years old. Come on, 45. Man. He's on that shit.
I'm going to go Tampa, and I'm gonna go the Bills. I'm going to go Tampa, Buffalo.
Oh, that would be fun. That would be good.
I think the Bills' defense is good enough to get them through that side of the bracket. That's just my feeling. I think if they could beat Kansas City, they'll beat whoever comes out of the Bengals.
And they played a hell of a game earlier in the year. Tampa beat them once, but once Buffalo woke up, like that fourth quarter was really good. I wouldn't mind watching that again.
They're playing better now than they were earlier in the year. They're as good a Bills team as we've seen since our youth, when you get right down to it.
Yep. Brian?
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, I'll go. Man, I was going to be different and pick Cincinnati, but I can see them winning this weekend, beating Tennessee, but I don't see them going into Arrowhead and beating them with the money on the line. So I will go, I'll go Green Bay, Kansas City.
I, of course, am going to stick with my lifelong determination that God hates me and say that it's going to be the Music City Miracles versus the Tom Brady's. And at that point, it's a fucking toss-up. I mean, who hates me the most? It could go either way. Probably the Miracles, because they shouldn't even have existed, because they're the Houston goddamn Oilers. So that's my take.
So you're putting the Titans in again against Brady, and they didn't they play in the Super Bowl like 100 years ago? The Titans and against the Patriots, or no? That was a playoff game. What am I?
No, the Titans played the Rams.
That was right. Yeah, it was Mike Jones at the
That's
end.
who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, who? Mike Jones. Yeah, he made the tackle at the end. That's Eddie George, Steve McNair. Yeah.
But wasn't that the year they did the Music City Miracle, and they propelled him into?
Yeah, like that's like the.
Super
I think
Bowl?
that's the same season.
That's where I'm thinking.
Although, Alan, I will say, if it is that, I would root for Tennessee. Like I've had enough of Brady. Like,
I mean, I'll never root for Tennessee because they shouldn't fucking exist. But we should probably stop recording at this point.
Yeah. It's funny because the other day, or no, it wasn't the other day. It was on Twitter. They were showing highlights of. It was a playoff game between Kansas City and Houston in the Astrodome, and it's Warren Moon and Joe Montana. And I'm looking at these Oilers jerseys and I'm like, why did we ever get rid of these? These are some of the most beautiful jerseys of all time, and we got rid of these. And I don't remember why. But
there are a few dollars to be made, and some shifts to be made in Excel sheets. So it made perfect sense.
Creative accounting. So with that, that's probably a good place to end it. So we'll revisit these picks later down the line because I'm sure we're all going to be wrong to some degree, and there'll be something that was very obvious that we didn't consider. So with that, I thank you boys for jumping on and running this, what we like to call the four corner offense, once again. And so we'll do this again real soon. March Madness, our favorite time of year, is coming up soon.
Let's do it before March Madness.
Maybe we can do one right before the tournament starts and give people some insights into how we used to do things. I think that would be good.
I've watched 3 Kentucky basketball games this year, and they're actually not bad. They're pretty fun to watch.
I've watched like nothing, like a little bit of Ohio State, but I've watched I have no idea who's good and who isn't, other than Baylor and Gonzaga. Like and that's only because they're in the top 5. Like Duke's got a couple NBA players. I know nothing.
I don't even know who Ohio State basketball coach's name is. I don't even know who that guy's name.
You shouldn't. Yeah. I mean, basically, he's Thad Matta 2.0. Like, you're not missing anything with that guy. Like, you're really like Ohio State's like they're just going to win 20 games and make the tournament every year. But after that, don't expect much out of them. So, like I said, but I don't know, is Villanova good? Like, you see, like, I have no idea who's good anymore. I'm just happy to have the days off, and hopefully we can all get together and get somewhere and watch games like we used to.
I'm off those days, so we'll figure that out.
Well, I haven't scheduled them yet, but they will be scheduled soon. So,
all right,
guys, thanks for jumping on, man. Really appreciate it. We'll do this again here soon.